So it's back to school time for most schools. And I have to admit that I'm not real clear, because back however many years ago when I was in grade school and high school, we started right after Labor Day and we finished around the middle of June. Some schools, of course, as we know, go year-round. I know it's back to school time when Mike posts on Facebook that it's time to go back to school. So that's how I know. But for pretty much everybody, I think they've already gone back, or this week they will go back to school. And so Reverend Gay's idea was to kind of do a back to basics theme for the month. So as I share ideas with you this morning, please be aware that I will probably not tell you anything you don't already know. And so your ego, and Wayne Dyer said that ego stands for edging God out, might start to think about, gee, I need to stop at the store on the way home and get, or what are we going to do for dinner tonight or lunch tomorrow, or do I have enough mayonnaise for the barbecue or whatever. And that's okay, but I just invite you to come back, to be aware of what you're aware of, and come back and allow me to share some wonderful reminders with you. If we go back to when you first walked into this center, or wherever you came from in your path for religious science or science of mind or new thought or whatever you choose to call it, there are those words that we remember that Ernest Holmes said, that there's a power greater than you are and you can use it. And the truth is, we do use it all the time, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. I love to talk about this teaching, and I love to talk about this teaching with people who hear about it and they think that it's kind of a little bit airy-fairy, or that it's new age, or it's just kind of out there. And I love that because absolutely everything we're going to talk about today, we can trace back to the words of Jesus in the Bible. There's nothing goofy out there. There's nothing out there, and in fact, as we know, there's no out there. But this is not an airy-fairy kind of thing. These principles are absolutely based in the Bible. We just don't use it very often, but they're always there for us. We pray in the affirmative. We don't beg or beseech or plead. We pray in the affirmative, stating what it is we want and accepting it as our truth. In Mark 11, we read, "Have faith in God," Jesus answered. "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." You might have heard that somewhere before, like in the Science of Mind textbook. That's the foundation. That's the foundation of our teaching. We recognize that God, Spirit, the universe, the infinite, the divine, whatever we choose to call it, is a power, not a personality. And so we don't have to beg and beseech and bargain. God, if you grant this wish today, then I'll come to church every Sunday morning for the next month, or I'll stop eating Oreos, or whatever it is. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. Jesus said it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And if that's the truth, then it should be our good pleasure to receive it. And the kingdom, I believe, is not just what happens to us when we go on to our next experience. The kingdom is this moment. This is our prosperity and our abundance in this moment in every area of our lives. One of my favorite authors is Edwene Gaines, and in her book, The Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, she talks about prosperity being healthy physical body, wonderful relationships, a job or work, whatever that is, whether that's 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, or taking care of your garden or your house or your spouse or whatever, or whatever it is, but that work that is so wonderful that it makes your heart sing, and you do it whether they paid you or not, and all the money you can spend. Those four, I'd go with that. I'll accept all those four things, wouldn't you? And they're all connected, because if you have all the money you could spend, but your relationships are awful and nobody wants to do anything with you, that's not prosperity. Or if you've got all the money you can spend and wonderful people, but your physical body isn't working anymore, that's not prosperity. So all of those work together. And it's the Father's good pleasure to give us that. So when we have a situation in our lives, we pray. We call it spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, but whatever you choose to call it is okay. We have 5 set steps that I'll remind you of in just a minute, but sometimes our spiritual mind treatment is consisting of the word, "Oh God." That's a prayer. Have you ever had a situation when that was your only prayer? Oh God, or some other word filling in the blank that wasn't God, but you get the point. Our steps in spiritual mind treatment, and those of us that came through Emerson Theological Institute, use a little bit different from the ones that CSL uses, but it's the same basic thing. And I love that Emerson did this, because it makes it easier to remember for a test. And the tests of life and those experiences that we go through on a day-to-day basis. So recognition. There's one power, presence, mind, life, and intelligence, and that is God. Unification. I am one with, because there's only one, I am one with that power, presence, and intelligence. What it is I choose to experience. Accepting what I say I want, which is a topic for another Sunday talk, but sometimes we get into, gee, this is what I say I want, but am I really willing to accept it? And then thanksgiving and release. So the 5 steps spell RUCAT. Recognition, unification, choosing, acceptance, thanksgiving, and release. We know the truth. The truth is, we are whole, complete, and perfect in this moment. We are abundant. We are joyful. Our bodies are physical perfection. Everything is just lovely. That's the truth. But the fact is, sometimes that's not what we're experiencing. Sometimes we lost our job. Sometimes we get a diagnosis from the doctor that scares us. Sometimes something happens and, yeah, I get the truth, but the fact is I'm really angry, or I'm really afraid, or I'm really whatever. Sometimes in this teaching, there's a temptation to live in denial. And the truth, again, the truth of us is what we were talking about, but the fact of us is we go through these things. And we had a situation in our house not long ago with a remodeling company that just was a nightmare, and I won't go into details other than to say that I was not a happy boy. In fact, I was really upset, and I kept getting, well, now, if it's done unto you as you believe, you somehow had a belief in chaos and struggle and all the rest of that, so it's partly your fault. It's so important that we not do that to ourselves. I don't know about you, but I don't always know what I believe. There's stuff, using a purely metaphysical term, stuff that shows up in our lives that we don't know where it came from, so the opportunity is to look at it, then feel it, feel the anger, feel the fear, feel the whatever it is, and then pray. But don't stay in that denial, that I somehow shouldn't feel that way. If there is one word that we could take out of the dictionary and send into space, I think it would be the word should. Do you know what I mean? If you get the thought that you really should, chances are you don't want to. Or you really do want to and you shouldn't. I really should, right? I really should go to the gym this afternoon. I really shouldn't have that second piece of chocolate cake. I really should go to church. Now see, that's the one exception, because you really should go to church. But the rest of these things, how often I really shouldn't feel that way because I'm a practitioner, and whether you have the initials after your name or not, we are all religious science practitioners. I'm a practitioner, so my life shouldn't look this way. I shouldn't be sick. I shouldn't be feeling this way. That's nonsense. We allow ourselves to feel what we feel, to recognize that we're angry or fearful or hurt or whatever it is, but then we move on and we move into our prayer work. So the facts are different from truth. Truth is we're always whole, complete, and perfect, and everything is in divine order. The fact is I'm upset, or I'm fearful, or I'm whatever. In the book, Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes writes, "In the science of mind, we do not say everything is all right when it is all wrong. We do not say peace when there is no peace, but rather we try to discover what is wrong and why we do not have peace. We do not say that people are not poor, sick, or unhappy." And there's a concept that I found, and I love this, and of course you can find everything in the world on the internet, and I found this concept that really resonated for me. It's called spiritual bypass, or avoidance in holy drag. Don't you love that? Avoidance in holy drag. Spiritual bypass, and the definition is it's a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. So we get to recognize this really hurts, or this really scares me, or this really makes me upset. We look at it full-faced and then go into our spiritual mind treatment work, into our affirmative prayer, and avoid shoulding on ourselves. How often do we go down the road of worrying and denying and everything else before we think, gee, maybe I should take this into prayer? How long does it take us before we get reminded that we're not in this by ourselves? We never, ever, ever walk alone. And the answer, and maybe the answer is, I know, hang in there. But the answer is there for us when we allow ourselves to ask, to be reminded of the truth of who we are. So we ask for what we want. You know, the New Testament, ask, seek, and knock. And keep asking, and keep seeking, and keep knocking for whatever it is. Because we know that, because God is a power, not a personality, it's done unto us as we believe, whatever it is. Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity, said, "The inexhaustible supply of spirit is equal to every demand. Demand not going out in the parking lot and shaking your fist at the sky, but the demand in the quiet, absolute knowing that this is what I choose to experience. It's the healing. It's the healing of a physical challenge. It's the healing of a hurt that someone did or said something or didn't do or say something, and it hurt, and I don't know what to do about it. It's the healing in allowing ourselves to forgive who or whatever it was, sometimes ourselves. It's we call it the manifestation or the demonstration, but it's the answered prayer of the financial concern or the how am I going to do this or how is this going to work. It's that answering, that demonstration. So we do that. We do our prayer work. We say, and so it is, or amen. And then how long before our ego says, yeah, but, in this economy, or you're too old, or too young, or too big, or too small, or you don't have enough experience, or just all of those wonderful reasons why that couldn't possibly happen for us. It's so important for us to notice what we're noticing. And when we have those thoughts, we just go back inside and say, no, I released this. I said, and so it is. And when we do that, something happens. Something has to happen when we say, and so it is. My husband and I were on a 10-day cruise to Alaska the end of July. It was flippin' amazing. It really was. Out of San Francisco, 4 ports, 10 days on Princess. And Princess's current advertising slogan is, come back new. And that's my topic for this morning. And I love the concept of that because when we do our spiritual practice, whether it's our treatment work, our spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer, our meditation work, whatever it is, our intention is to do that and come back new. Come back new into the consciousness of a little child. You remember in the New Testament, Jesus talks about, unless you become as a little child, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. So what do children do? Children have no concept of all the reasons why this couldn't possibly happen. All they know is that that's what I want. Y'all get to figure it out. That's what I want. And I'm telling you, that's what I want. They don't understand yesterday or last week or last month or 20 minutes ago. Well, yeah, but what are we doing now? What's going on now? How come we can't go and do that now? They don't understand that because it's always joy and wonder and passion and excitement and possibility in this moment. It's the chalkboard that's erased every day or every hour or every 15 minutes. Yeah, that happened and I spilled the milk and I'm sorry, but what about now? What are we doing now? A great lesson for that. So we come back new as a result of our prayer work and our meditation and spiritual practice into recognizing that if it didn't work before, it doesn't matter. This is a new moment. If logic and reason tell you there's no way that could possibly happen, it doesn't matter. Because we're not working with logic and reason, we're working with all the amazing possibility that the universe has for us. we have a condo in La Mesa, and we've been there 21 or 2 years. And we started renting. We lived in an apartment a few blocks away, turned one Saturday, going to the bank. The bank is up and those of you that are familiar with La Mesa, Baltimore Drive and Navajo. So we lived on Lake Murray Boulevard, so we just for whatever reason, well, let's go up this way for a change. And so we turned left onto Baltimore and drove up, and there's the for rent sign in the window of this condo. And we were looking for a bigger place, and wouldn't it be nice if? And so the landlord hadn't advertised it, he just put the sign in the window. And so, what a strange coincidence that on that day, at that moment, we would turn to go up Baltimore Drive. And I absolutely know that there's no such thing as a coincidence. We are divinely guided in the most amazing ways. So to make a long story even longer, we called, got the condo, lived there for 5 or 6 years, absolutely amazing, absolutely love it, adore it, it's fabulous. The landlord was amazing. We said, whenever you decide to sell it, we want to buy it. So we'd been to Vail, Colorado. If you've ever driven over there in the summer, you know it's just the most glorious drive and the most beautiful place. Stopped at the outlet mall in Elsinore and filled up our Ford Explorer with amazingly cool stuff from the outlet mall. China pattern that we could never decide on a China pattern. Found a China pattern that we both liked. So we bought China, we bought clothes, we bought all sorts of cool stuff. We filled up the car, we filled up the credit cards, we came home and picked up the messages, and one of the messages was from the landlord saying, "It's time." Oy. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? The credit cards are full. There's not much money in savings because we just went on vacation. How are we going to do this? And the universe says, of course there's a way. So we bought the condo. We never packed a single box. And we didn't use a real estate agent because we were working with the seller, and so we just did that. And through this process, I kept thinking, we better go get some boxes, because just in case. And the still small voice said, no. You stated your intention. Do we have a plan B? Do we have a plan B, or do we really get that when we state our intention, Spirit does something? And so I didn't go get boxes, and we did our thing, and we signed the paper, and we've been there ever since. And through this process, we kept reminding ourselves it either works or it doesn't. A Course in Miracles says there's no degree of difficulty in miracles. And whether the miracle, in quotation marks, is the new job or the unexpected income or the buying of a condo or finding the right car for you or just whatever it is, the universe doesn't understand that it's difficult. The universe doesn't understand that it's difficult to find a parking place at noon at Costco on Saturday. Do we assign that level of difficulty? You know, I can get parking places Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock all week long. But Saturday morning, 11:45, it's lunchtime, it's the weekend. Are you going to find a parking place at Costco? Somebody does. Lots of people do. But what are we expecting? Do we do our treatment work for a parking place and then go look for the parking places way at the far end? Or do we go up to the front recognizing that we've stated our truth and that's there for us? Do we assign that level of difficulty, or do we allow Spirit to do what Spirit does? One of the first assignments when we first started in this teaching was to look at what we believe about God. And did I bring that? And I have to admit that I brought that old belief about, the white, straight, cranky, judgmental, hateful, surly Old Testament God. Is that who I'm still praying to? Or am I recognizing that this is a loving, nurturing presence that Jesus described that always says yes to me as I believe? It's an important question for us to keep asking as we go back to basics, as we come back new. It's important for us to keep asking, what do I believe about this situation? What do I believe about my experience with Spirit? And quoting Edwin Gaines again, what must I change about myself in order to receive this? Because I'm never talking God into doing anything. That's important. I'm never talking God into doing anything. All I'm doing is changing my belief about the experience. So what must I change? What must I release? What must I embrace in order to receive whatever it is? So to continue that quote from Ernest Holmes from Living the Science of Mind, and I'll review the first part and then add the rest. In the Science of Mind, we do not say everything is all right when it is all wrong. We do not say peace when there is no peace, but rather we try to discover what is wrong and why we do not have peace. We do not say that people are not poor, sick, or unhappy. We ask why these things should be if the original cause of all things is harmonious, perfect, radiant, and happy. So if that's the truth of me, but this is the fact of me, what do I need to release? What do I need to change so that my truth and my facts match? And that's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. Is asking, what do I believe about this? What do I need to release? What do I need to forgive? This is Labor Day weekend, and we might have stuff about, again, using a purely metaphysical term, about beliefs about the virtue of hard work. And how, it's if you struggle through this and you work hard through this and you put your head to the grindstone and so forth, somehow there's more virtue than if you're just allowing the abundance of the universe to flow to you and the UPS driver drops by with a box of $100 bills. Now, if that happens for you, I want to talk to you because your consciousness is really cool. But the point is again, that belief in difficulty, that belief in incurable, that belief in stage 4, that belief in whatever it is that is not the truth of us. We get to decide and change our belief about whatever it is, because that's what we're doing. I'd like to close with a quote. This is from the book, wonderful book, Defy Gravity, by Caroline Myss. And I have copies of this quote from the book. They're the pink sheet on the table in the back room. And if this resonates for you, I invite you to take a copy home with you, because this just really lit me up. Live as if you were liberated from ordinary thought, beyond the boundaries of logic and reason. Be bold in your decisions and creative and imaginative in your thoughts. Think and live with the soul of a mystic, seeing the world as a field of grace in which you walk as a channel of light. Live these truths. Become these truths. This is your highest potential. You have resources yet to be unleashed. Make bold, outrageous choices. Live as though you have the power to change the world, because you do. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a minute. And in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we allow ourselves to be reminded of our oneness. We allow ourselves to be reminded that we have the power to change the world. And that's in changing our world, and that's in changing the world around us by our example. And so we allow ourselves to move forward in this consciousness of oneness, in this consciousness of amazing possibility, knowing that the universe says, of course, that nothing is too wonderful to happen. Nothing is too good to be true. So we move forward in this knowingness, accepting our greater good in whatever area it is, knowing that life, with a capital L, always says yes. For this reminder, we give great thanks. Together we say, and so it is.